Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar series of the ERPfixers Webinar 2020 series. I'm Jessica Carson. I'm with ERPfixers, and today we're going to be discussing using the prediction and commitment extension ledger for sales and purchases by Paul Ovagel. Before we get started, I want to discuss just a little bit about what ERPfixers is and talk about Paul's background. ERPfixers connects you with SAP experts to obtain quality, immediate solutions for your SAP system. We consist of thousands of SAP freelancers globally in all SAP modules who are ready to help and assist with their knowledge in SAP. We offer an online platform, SAP optimization assessment, Material Ledger, S/4HANA Transitional Roadmap, and cost transparency reports. If you're interested in finding out more information, please visit our website at www.erpfixers.com. Presenting our guest speaker today, we have Paul Ovagel, who will be speaking with us today. He has worked as an ERP financials consultant since 1997 in both North America and Europe. He specializes in implementing the FI and CO modules along with their integrated areas for companies in various industries. He speaks at numerous SAP conferences, offers strategic and functional level trainings to companies, and he's considered one of the leading experts on Material Ledger. If you're interested, please check out his books, which he is the author of 100 Things You Should Know About Financial Accounting, Reconciling COPA to the General Ledger, Introducing the Material Ledger and S/4HANA, and Material Ledger and S/4HANA. Now I'm going to leave it up to Paul to begin the presentation. Take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Jessica. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webcast. We are going to start with talking about different types of extension ledger and what they can be used for. So what are the ledgers in S/4HANA? What are the types of ledger? So first is the Universal Journal, which we can also call the Universal Ledger, which is a huge table containing multiple fields from different modules. Then we have the Standard Ledger, and the Standard Ledger is what in the ECC system was called the leading ledger or the non-leading ledger. In ECC, there was kind of a hierarchy between the leading and non-leading ledger, with the leading ledger really being the ledger that was assigned to the major depreciation areas or used for the major gap principle. In S/4HANA, it's kind of interchangeable. The leading and non-leading ledger kind of are on the same footing. There's still some functionality the leading ledger does better or more than non-leading, but it's really almost on par. And they're both collectively called the Standard Ledger. Then we have the Extension Ledger, which used to be called the Appendix Ledger. The Extension Ledger, there are 4 different types of Extension Ledger, and I'll go into that further in this webcast. There's the Extension Ledger, or what we'll call this the Standard Extension Ledger. So that's the first one. The second is the Simulation Ledger. The third is the Valuation Ledger. And the fourth is the Prediction and Commitments Ledger. Okay, we'll discuss this further because that's basically what the this webcast is focusing on, one of these types of ledgers. So what is the Standard Ledger? So it can be the leading or non-leading ledger, as I discussed. The leading ledger normally presents the main gap. You can have multiple parallel gaps created as non-leading ledgers. However, your leading depreciation area, that's depreciation area 01 in the fixed asset accounting module, can be mapped to either the leading or non-leading ledger. And that's one of the differences between asset accounting in S/4HANA and asset accounting in ACC, is that you actually have the flexibility of assigning your main depreciation area to either the leading or the non-leading ledger. In ECC, you could only assign it to the leading ledger. The non-leading ledger can have its own fiscal year and posting period variant. And the non-leading ledger stores both the leading ledger data and any corresponding non-leading ledger data. Now, what is the extension ledger? So as I said earlier, the extension ledger used to be called the appendix ledger, and it can be used for various purposes. So the first one is the standard extension ledger. This is to meet local reporting requirements, and it's normally similar to the underlying ledger with a few minor adjustments. And I'll talk a little further about the standard extension ledger in the bottom part of this slide, because it's the type of extension ledger that was initially introduced, and it's the one most people think about when they think about the extension ledger. There's the simulation extension ledger, which is used for simulating the foreign currency valuation. I'll speak a little further about that in the next couple of slides. Then you have the predictive extension ledger, which is what this webcast is about, and it's used for storing the predictive accounting information for incoming sales orders, purchase order commitments, and statistical sales conditions. So just a little further about the standard extension ledger, which, like I said, is the extension ledger which, one, most people associate with the extension ledger, and two, was the first type of extension ledger that SAP brought out. In fact, at that point, it was just called the extension ledger. I don't know that at that point SAP thought that they were going to have different types of extension ledger, right? So this standard extension ledger, it stores delta values and points to another ledger, providing a flexible approach for adjustments and management reporting. So what happens with the standard extension ledger is this. Say you had $1,000 posting in your leading ledger, right? Even though it's in your leading ledger, the extension ledger also recognizes that $1,000, right? In your table, it doesn't show up, but in reports, it will show up as if it was in the extension ledger. Now, if you posted an extra $100 just to your extension ledger and you were reporting on your extension ledger, you will see both the $1,000 from the leading ledger and the $100 from the extension ledger. So you'll see $1,100, even though in reality only the $100 was posted to the extension ledger. Okay, so the extension ledger is very simple to set up. And in fact, it's one of the only ledgers that you can set up if you're doing a brownfield implementation to S/4HANA. So meaning if you were transitioning your current ECC data into S/4HANA, you are normally advised not to set up a new ledger during your implementation, right? Because it could cause some conflict with historical data and clearing and all that, all different kinds of things. But the extension ledger is one of the ledgers that you can set up when you implement. It's so flexible that you shouldn't have these historical data issues, because as I said before, there shouldn't be any historical data in there. It should really just piggyback off whatever is in the leading ledger. Okay, so reporting on the extension ledger includes the base set of ledger, and multiple extension ledgers can point to the same base ledger. So base ledger is what I'm showing on the right part of this slide. The blue portion here is the underlying standard ledger. You have 3 different extension ledgers piggybacking off this. It creates reduced data footprint and zero reconciliation effort, right? Because it's all in the same table, it's just an additional ledger. Okay, the data is stored in the Universal Journal, just like the normal ledgers are stored. In fact, if you look at the Universal Journal itself and you're reporting on it, you can't immediately tell, unless you know what particular name you call the extension ledger. You don't know at that point if it's a standard or extension ledger, which could be confusing, but hopefully it's more helpful than it is confusing. Right, so let's talk about the configuration of a ledger and kind of bring together some of these different concepts we've discussed. So in S/4HANA, the transaction for configuring ledgers is FINSC_ledger. There's a whole bunch of other things you can do here with currency types and accounting principles, but we'll focus on the ledger part of this transaction. So I have 4 different ledgers listed here, which coincide with what we spoke about in the earlier slide. The first one, ledger 0C, is an extension ledger. So it has the name extension ledger under ledger type. Then it has the name under extension ledger type called a prediction and commitment. So it's an extension ledger, but it's a prediction and commitments extension ledger. And it has an underlying ledger. So remember, with extension ledger, you always have to assign it to an underlying ledger, right? The second one is 0E is an extension ledger as well. It has an extension ledger type. And then the extension ledger type is extension ledger. So this is what we call the standard extension ledger. In fact, I hope that SAP changes this so that it's the extension ledger type is called standard extension ledger, because this could get confusing, right? So this is the one I said is just a delta posting in the extension ledger on top of an underlying ledger. The third one, 0L, I think most people are familiar with. This is the leading ledger, and you can tell because in the leading column, it shows a checkbox, right? The fourth one is a non-leading ledger. That's because, one, it doesn't have a leading ledger checkbox, and secondly, it doesn't have an extension ledger type of underlying ledger. So just as a brief snapshot of how you can identify these ledgers, you can use what we've said in this in these bullet points. Extension ledger has the extension ledger type and underlying ledger. Leading ledger has the leading ledger checkbox. Non-leading ledger has neither the leading checkbox nor the extension ledger type. Right. So the extension ledger types indicate what the extension ledger is for. Right. So if you look at this first one, the ledger type is extension ledger. Then the extension ledger type could either be extension ledger, or what I'd like to call the standard extension ledger, simulation, predictions, and commitment, and valuation. And the drop down is how you specify which one you want it to be. So what are the extension ledger types? So the first one, as I said, is this standard extension ledger. And how can you use the standard extension ledger? A very typical use for this is if you're introducing a new product. You're introducing a new product into your company that you're going to produce and sell or buy and sell, and you want to know what is the impact on your financial statements if this product is introduced. Now, the product hasn't gone into full use yet, but you kind of want kind of a forecast or simulation of how your financial statements would look. So you could post the new product costs, revenues, inventory, all that in your extension ledger. It would be a manual posting. So this standard extension ledger is all manual, right? There's nothing automated here. It'll be a posting where you go like FB50L in the ledger type, just enter your extension ledger and post it, right? And so when you post that, even though it only shows up in the extension ledger, if you run a report for the extension ledger, it'll show you a full financial statement with your normal products or your services, and it would add this new product on top of it as if this is the results when you have this new product in place. So that's the standard extension ledger. The simulation extension ledger is for foreign currency valuation. So if you have like different exchange rates and different currencies, and not at the end of the month, but during the month, you want kind of a simulation of what your statement or your accounts would look like. You can simulate this posting in the extension ledger. So it doesn't only tell you what it would look like, it actually makes a posting in the extension ledger. So it aids this concept of soft close that SAP is trying to get to, where you don't have to wait till the end of the year to see the impact of things. It can happen during the month. Then the prediction and commitments ledger is the third type of extension ledger. That's the focus of this webcast. And we'll see some of the scenarios that we're talking about here: sales order forecasting and purchase order commitment. And if you look at these three, you can tell they have kind of the same type of overall objective. Is instead of waiting till the end of the month or a certain point of time, you can easily do simulations with these extension ledgers, and you can do them in real time. You're doing it in real time, and it's also integrated with the Universal Journal. And I find interesting, especially in these times that we're living in, is that SAP had brought this out because of an uncertain market or an uncertain global economy. And so what if, something was potentially going to impact your results? You can see it immediately. You can see it with postings. And I think now when we see how certain things are going nowadays, you can tell what the use, how valuable these extension ledgers are. How do you simulate or forecast something based on what you know, or what some data that that might impact your results. The last one is the valuation ledger. Now, this one, you will actually see it in your configuration. It's called valuation ledger, but apparently it doesn't do anything as of this point. It's not fully developed, and SAP actually has a note, this 2701368, if you want to hide this ledger showing up, because I think, I'm not sure why it even shows up, but as of now, there's no real purpose for this one, and it might change any day, but that's how what I understand for now. Okay, so we've had just a brief overview of the different types of ledgers and the extension ledger types. Now, let's talk about the difference between predictive analytics and predictive accounting. I have only one slide for this section, and the reason why I have this slide up is because there's a lot of confusion around what is predictive accounting versus what is predictive analytics, right? I think predictive analytics is more the term people have heard of. Predictive accounting, I've only heard it with SAP. I'm not sure if other software companies use this term as well, but let's at least clear up some differences. So predictive accounting, it uses data that's already posted in the system. So this webinar is about predictive accounting. We're using data that is going to be posted in the system. Predictive analytics uses typically historical data, sometimes even external data, to predict future results, right? It's not necessarily data that has been posted in the system. It could be something else. It could be historical, it could be trend, it could be series, things like that. Predictive accounting does not normally require machine learning, while predictive analytics usually requires machine learning capabilities. Predictive accounting uses a finite set of data, right? It's more tangible, it's more granular in predictive accounting. Predictive analytics uses vast amounts of data. In fact, predictive analytics is kind of part of what, when years ago, big data, when the whole big data concept came out, right? And you use like massive amounts of data to do different things. And one of those things is to put the data in certain categories or make the data in a certain way that you can predict future results. That's what predictive analytics kind of comes out of that. Predictive accounting is a bottom-up approach. So from what I've been saying, you can tell that bottom-up means you use a finite set of data or granular data to view or to kind of determine something that's less granular. Like you use a sales order data to predict what is my billing document going to be like, right? So it's kind of bottom-up. More granular to less granular, or more certain to less certain. While predictive analytics is more top down. And again, if you hear what I said earlier, it uses big data, right, which in itself doesn't make any sense. And you try to whittle that down and make sense of it so it does make sense for something more finite. So that's top down. Predictive accounting is usually for short to medium term prediction, probably based on this finite set of data, while predictive analytics is more medium to long term. And as its name indicates, predictive accounting is really accounting specific, while predictive analytics is not necessarily accounting specific. You can use it for a whole bunch of different things. Okay, so I just wanted to have that slide to clear up those differences. And now we'll jump into how to set up the extension ledger for prediction and commitment. So the first thing, this configuration table, which is FINSV underscore prid underscore RLDNR is a configuration table that needs to happen after you have done the previous configuration of defining what your extension ledger is. I'm going to go up a few slides here, and just like I defined in this table FINC ledger, this has to be done first, right? You have to have your ledger defined as an extension ledger and as a prediction and commitments ledger and the underlying ledger first. And then when you have that, the system recognizes that as an extension ledger. But now you have to say which extension ledger or which predictive extension ledger are you going to use for predictive accounting? And then you define it here. You can only define one. So even if you have multiple prediction ledgers, you only define one for predictive accounting. Right, so that's in this table, and I believe in 1909 and the release 1909, I believe there's a configuration menu path for this, but you can also use SM30 and this table name to get here. The next thing you want to do is activate predictive accounting. Now here, this is under the profitability analysis IMG menu path, the configuration menu path, and it's also under where you activate the transfer of incoming sales orders, right? So here you're activating predictive accounting for incoming sales orders, and it's as simple as having your controlling area, what fiscal year you're activating from, and whether it's active with date of entry. So this particular drop down is either active or inactive. Okay, and just one thing to mention here. This part, as you can tell, is talking about incoming sales orders. However, this webcast is both sales orders and purchase orders. Now, for purchase orders, the only thing you had to do, this is the previous slide, is to do this. So once you've activated, once you've maintained your predictive accounting ledger, you're all set for purchase order predictions, right? Sales orders, there's a few different configuration steps you need to make. Purchase orders is really just one step right now. Right. So once you've activated your predictive accounting for incoming sales orders, you then have to assign the billing types that you want to be enabled for predictive accounting. So that's also in another table, which is FINSV underscore prid underscore FCART, assignment of billing types for predictive accounting. Now here you enter your sales order type, your billing type, and you have to specify that billing type is enabled for predictive accounting. Okay. Again, there's a menu path for this, but this is another way to do it. So once you've assigned your billing type and your order type, then you assign the order-related billing relevance. And here is where you assign the item category that you want to enable for predictive accounting. And in this screen, I've just assigned the standard one, which is TAN. And just drop down and say, I have relevant for order-related billing status according to target quantity. There's about 5 or 6 different options there, but this is the one typically that I use and the one that does work for posting sales orders and predicting the billing document. Right, so those, you saw about 4 configuration steps, and that's pretty much it as far as setting up predictive accounting. Obviously, there's other things on top of this, especially when it comes to sales orders. Before I go into a specific scenario, this predictive accounting is set up to work with account-based COPA, right? And in fact, the reason why the whole predictive accounting functionality was introduced is because SAP's COPA roadmap is account-based COPA, not costing-based COPA. Costing-based COPA, there's going to be no more enhancements there. It's basically just kind of, it's waiting to be sunset in S4HANA. So, however, in ECC, costing-based was so much more powerful than account-based. Account-based was just a report by accounts and COPA characteristics, and it wasn't even every account, right? So, but costing base did so much more. And what SAP is trying to do is to replicate a lot of the functionality in costing based and bring it into account based. So eventually there'll be no reason to say, hey, I still need to have costing based COPA. So one of those things is this predictive accounting on sales orders. In ECC, if you have incoming sales orders active, anytime you post a sales order, that will go to COPA, even if you haven't done a goods issue or build. Sales orders will get posted using this record type A. Record type A is only available with costing-based COPA. So account-based COPA needs its own record type A, basically. And since account-based COPA is on the future of SAP's COPA roadmap, there had to be some other way of predicting sales orders that wasn't based on record type. Okay. So let us look at an example of a sales order. So this is a sales order that is posted before the delivery document has been done. It's got a net value of 2,600, so that's the expected revenue. It's got a quantity there of 280 kilograms and order quantity of, a weight of 280 kg and an order quantity of 1 each. So the sales order has just been posted. Nothing else has been done. Okay. So now let's see how it looks in the Universal Journal. So the Universal Journal, for people who don't know, is the table AC Doc A. You might hear that term AC Doc A a lot. That's just the Universal Journal, right? Also, if you're a user that doesn't have access to looking directly at a table, you may never even see this term AC Doc A, because you'll be looking at a report, it may not even be called the Universal Journal. It may be called something else, right? Like P&L or trial balance or something. But I'm looking directly at the table. So because I want to show how, all the raw data that's posted just from that sales order being posted. First thing you'll see is the ledger 0C. That is our extension ledger, our extension predictive accounting ledger. Then you'll see that it has all the different data values that make it look like it's a normal document. You see it has a document type. You have 2 WL. For anyone who knows, WL is a goods issue document type. RV is a billing document type. So it looks like it's a posting, but it's not, right? It looks like it's an actual posting. One clue is probably the document number, right? You have these funny looking alphanumeric document numbers. Those are not real like accounting documents you'll see in your standard ledger. But it has all the characteristics you'll get in COPA. Customer, I only have customer and cost center here, but anything else that you have on that sales order will come into this document. Another thing you'll see is it's always a double entry. That's something I find interesting, because when you think of forecasting and planning and simulation, you don't necessarily think double entry. You think, okay, I know I'm going to get my revenue, I know I'm going to get my cost of sales, but you're not necessarily thinking of the offset. But one thing that I think is pretty cool in predictive accounting, and probably why it's called accounting, is that it still conforms to the double entry kind of philosophy of normal accounting. So you have here your inventory account being credited and your cost of sales being debited for the goods issue, and your accounts receivable being debited and your revenue being credited. So it looks just like an accounting document, right? And to the uninitiated, you might not know that this is the extension ledger. So that's something which, again, I think it's okay, but it could be confusing if you don't know what's the extension ledger versus what's the leading ledger. Now, that was the screen before this was how does it look before you've even done a goods issue? Now you've done a goods issue. Sorry, that's this one here. Now you've done a goods issue. How does it look? So remember, when you do a goods issue, you're actually posting a financial document, right? So what happens here is you see there's 4 lines. 2 are ledger 0C, 2 are ledger 0L. So in the ledger 0C, what you see is the document type WL, right, which is the goods issue document type, but you see a reversal of the goods issue. So basically, you have the inventory account being debited and the cost of sales account being credited. Basically, a reversal of the previous slide's goods issue, because now you've done the real goods issue. So that's taken over by 0L, which is the leading ledger, and that has almost exactly the same thing, just the accounts are flipped, and you have a real goods issue posting and the what goes into cost of sales. Okay, so you don't see a doubling up of the values posted in the predictive accounting ledger and in the leading ledger. Okay. So now what happens after billing? Now, if you follow the logic of the goods issue posting, you probably can tell what would happen with billing, which is that the predictive accounting ledger, which is 0C, has a reversal of the billing posting that was done 2 slides before. So it now credits the accounts receivable, debits revenue, right? So it wipes that out. And then the leading ledger posts the real revenue posting, which is a credit to revenue, a debit to AR. Okay, and like I said, the important thing about this is all the characteristics in COPA or on your sales order are inherited in both the predictive accounting ledger and the leading ledger. Now, one thing to note about predictive accounting is, and I kind of alluded to this, but something to note. These documents, these PA, these funny documents, they may not necessarily be PA. I'm not sure if they all are, but the alphanumeric documents, they're not going to show up in your typical accounting transactions like FB03 or FAGLL03 or FBL3. It's not going to show up there, right? So you can't, if you don't have access to the raw data in SAP in the either in the S/4HANA system or in a standard Fiori app, you're going to have to go. It's either someone will have to create a report based on AC.A table, or you use a standard Fiori app, which is specific for incoming sales orders. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 of these type of apps, which allow evaluation and analysis of your predictive revenue and show different things like your, it obviously has your document number, your GL account, what was sold, your cost of sales, your sales. You can do margin analysis. You can do all kinds of things just on your predicted ledger. So that makes it pretty powerful for how to predict based on something that's already been posted in the system. Like I said, it's a little different from predictive analytics that will use something based on like a huge set of data, not necessarily a sales order posting. But I think this is pretty powerful for when you're looking at something that's very likely to become a reality. Okay, so let's talk about predictive accounting with purchase orders. So with purchase orders, and in fact, I don't have a slide for this, but I'll just say that even before S/4HANA and this extension ledger, SAP had commitment management, which I think anyone who deals with internal orders or WBS elements, budgets, and availability control would probably know about commitment management, which means when you post a purchase order, even before you've received your invoice, you can see what commitments you have out there and what you will eventually need to pay for, right? So almost like a prediction on its own, but that was standard with ECC. with the extension ledger, this kind of runs in parallel. They're not mutually exclusive, but you the extension ledger for commitments does not go to the same table as the classic commitment management functionality. Okay, this goes to your universal journal, So the purchase order, let's just look at an example of a purchase order with account assignment category. So I put a category of K. So in this case, I have an account assignment category. I also have a material number here, which I don't have to, but I did for this purpose. And so it has all the data that you need for the purchase order with a quantity of 5 pieces and a net price of $35. So by just posting the purchase order without any goods receipt, without any invoice, let's see what happens in the AC Doc A table. Again, you see that you have ledger 0C, which is your predictive accounting extension ledger. You have the document type WE, which is the document type for goods receipts. And then again, you have your double entry, which is a simulation of how your double entry would look if you were posting a real goods receipt. So that double entry is just credit the GRIR account, your accrual account, and debit some cost account, or it could even be an inventory account. In this case, it's a cost account. And then any characteristic. Now, in this case, it's not really characteristic based because this is not typically a COPA entry. It could be, but doesn't have to be. But any data that would be on your normal goods receipt should also be on your predictive extension ledger. Okay, so like your material, plant, cost center, and whatever else. Okay, so that's even before the goods receipt. Now, when the goods receipt happens, the goods receipt line in the predictive ledger is reversed. So you see the first 2 lines in ledger 0C have a reversal of the GRIR and your cost account. And you have the real posting in your standard ledger. So very, very similar to what we saw with the sales order. So same thing, if there's no goods receipt or invoice receipt, then what you see is the prediction. Once it comes in, it reverses the prediction. And it's kind of similar to anyone who uses commitment management is very similar to that because you had your commitment out there, and if your commitment was for $1,000 and you had a receipt for 500 of that, then you'll see your commitment is reduced by that 500, right? The commitment management, the classic commitment management doesn't go with a double entry kind of methodology, but the overall concept is still the same. Okay. So now, just as with the with the sales order, there's also a Fiori app for commitments. Maybe there's 1 or 2, but it allows you to track commitments posted on cost centers and compare them with actual expenses, plans, budgets, and possibly other things like that. And so again, just like I said with the sales orders, you cannot just look at the document type, the document number that is these PA alphanumeric numbers and put them into some transaction and see the prediction posting. Although having said that, I hope SAP actually changes that and has some transaction at some point that does that, because I don't see that there's no need. It's already in the Universal Journal. You might as well see it without going to Fiori. So I hope that's something that changes soon. But for now, you can't see that document unless you create a special report based on AC Doc A or you use the Fiori app. Okay. Now, at this point in time, there are limitations for predictive accounting. And I have to point this out because it's easy for someone to say, hey, you know what? In S4, we don't need to use our old commitment management. We can go full hog into this predictive accounting extension ledger. But for now, there are limitations, and one is only for WBS elements and cost centers. You can't do manual commitments or or carry forward the commitments. It only supports POs and purchase requisitions, and there's no separate commitments for freight. Also, only the current commitment and not planned commitment can be reported, right? And also you have to have the GRIR account, even if it's a non-valuated GRI, which, yeah, I think most companies have the GRIR account configured. And just bear in mind that there's this double entry posting that is done with these predictive accounting posting. So it looks very real. So even if you haven't done the GR, you'll see a GR posting for that extension ledger. Okay, now I'm going to hand it back to Jessica because we might have some questions that have been posted, which I'll try. What we normally do is I will answer as many as I can within the time we have. And then anything that we can't answer, what we normally do is we collate all the questions and post the answers on our website. So over to you, Jessica.
Thanks, Paul. So we've got a couple of questions that popped up. I'm going to start with the first one that I saw, and it is, can you use the extension ledger for costing-based COPA?
So that's, so as I mentioned, costing-based COPA is most likely going to be sunset by SAP, right? You can use it in parallel in S/4HANA, but it's very likely that there's no future enhancements. An extension ledger is a future enhancement, so very unlikely that there's going to be any functionality in costing-based COPA that includes the extension ledger. And if you think about it as well, the extension ledger is actually doing stuff that costing-based already does, right? If you think about one half of this presentation was based on sales orders, predicting sales orders. Cost-based COPA already has that using record type A, right? So extension ledger is just basically catching up with costing-based. Now, obviously, the commitment part, I don't believe cost-based COPA has that because you don't normally think of cost-based COPA with commitments. The extension ledger has that. Cost-based doesn't, but I don't think it's something that was in, it's not necessarily a COPA thing anyway. So just to summarize, I don't believe that, I haven't seen anything that says you can use extension ledger with cost-based COPA, and based on SAP's current roadmap, I don't think it's going to be the case in the future.
Great answer. Thank you, Paul. Another question that just popped up, can predictive accounting be activated retroactively?
So predictive accounting, as we saw in one of the slides one of the earlier slides, when you're activating predictive accounting for incoming sales orders, you enter the controlling area and you enter the year, the fiscal year. That means that depending on what is meant by retroactive, it could be, if retroactive means once I've activated predictive accounting, can I post to a year before that year that I activated it and still have it show up? The answer is yes, as long as that year, that previous year, is on or after what you put in that configuration table. If what is meant by retroactive is, something that wasn't in the extension ledger, could that retroactively now be in the extension ledger because you've activated it? I don't believe so.
Next question is, how is the extension ledger used with statistical conditions?
That's a good question. So at the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned very briefly statistical conditions as one of the functions of extension ledger, but that's not part of this webcast. We're talking predictive accounting, but that's true. Extension ledger can be used for statistical conditions, and in fact, just like I mentioned before, cost-based COPA, you could have statistical conditions post the cost-based COPA, even if they didn't hit accounting. Now, statistical conditions typically means it's a condition that does not necessarily have to go to accounting. It doesn't mean it doesn't go. It means it doesn't necessarily have to go. A typical one is your cost of sales condition on a sales order normally would not go to accounting because cost of sales goes to accounting on the goods issue. So that's a statistical condition. But companies have other statistical conditions like rebates and accruals and stuff like that. They could flow into cost-based COPA. They couldn't flow into account-based COPA. But now with the extension ledger, they can flow into account-based COPA. And the setup is actually pretty simple. It's even simpler than the setup for transfer and incoming sales orders. And it's just basically a table. There's a table called FCOV_stat_ACT. In that table, if you put a ledger, like an extension, one of your prediction extension ledger in there, when you post a sales order that has a statistical condition, and having a statistical condition means that there's an activation, a checkbox on the condition that says statistical, right? I think it might even be in your price and procedure. If that's on your sales order, when you post the billing document, you'll see an extra document line, which is your extension ledger. So maybe at some other point we'll do a webcast about that. But the short answer to the question is that yes, you can have you can use extension ledger for statistical conditions.
Thanks, Paul. I just had another question pop up that I want to get to since we have enough time. The question is there an impact on the PO commitment when invoice is received?
Right. So the purchase order commitment is it's usually used up either when a goods receipt or an invoice receipt is done. It depends on the type of PO. So if it's a goods receipt PO, it means the commitment will be used up when you've done the goods receipt. When you do the invoice receipt, it shouldn't make a difference, right? If the PO is not a GR-based PO, then it should be used up when the invoice is received. So it depends on the type of PO that's created.
Okay, and lastly, does extension ledger work with returns?
Extension ledger will work with the document types you configure in one of those tables that I have in the sales order. I believe it's the bill and relevance table that I showed in a previous slide. And like if you have a return type like RE is typical and you configure that in the table, then it should be fine. It should work okay with returns. There are still some limitations of this incoming sales order prediction, which I believe drop shipments and intercompany come to mind. There might be more, but typically it is where it's not a standard like sales order goods issue billing process. It's maybe something a little different, right? With a drop shipment, you have a goods receipt rather than a goods issue, and intercompany has its own process. So I'm not sure at this point if those are part of a prediction ledger, but returns are definitely part of it as long as you configure the right document type.
So Paul, I think we have enough time. I want to get into just one more question that popped up. The question is, predictive accounting, how is it useful in RRB?
Okay, so RRB, I believe, is resource-related billing. How is it useful? I think this is one of those questions we'll have to get back to because I personally have not used it. If RRB means resource-related billing. I haven't used it for that purpose yet. And like I said, there are some of the sales order transactions that are not yet part of predictive predictive accounting. So it's something I have to look at, because it might be something that is already there, but it depends on what you it depends on what is there, what the functionality is. And when I think of it, resource related billing is, I believe that's where it's normally used with like projects or services. It's used at certain points in time. You bill at certain points in time. So regardless of when revenue is actually received, your recognition of revenue or your billing to the customer is based on some other criteria. So we'll see. It sounds like one of those things that maybe is not part of the initial setup, but I'll check that out, and we'll post that answer after this webcast later on.
Thanks, Paul. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up today. I just want to reach out for those of you who are in the question A and asking some questions and waiting on answers. This is being recorded, so we will have this available for you to see again in the future. And any questions that you have asked that have not been answered yet, we will get back to you, and we have everything recorded properly so that we do get those questions asked for you. Paul, if you just want to go to the last slide so we can wrap this up. So thank you guys for joining us. Once again, today is March 10th, 2020. We really appreciate you guys spending some time with us today. Hopefully this was as informational and fun for y'all as it was for us. If you have any more questions, insights, or you want to get more information, please visit our website at www.erpfixers.com. And have a great day, guys.